Welcome to another episode of Founders Club. Today I'm going to be interviewing Dan Haberkost, the founder of Front Range Land. He's also a full-time real estate investor that was able to quit his well-paying job in his early 20s to pursue real estate full-time. We're going to be talking about all the best types of deals that he's doing right now, from land to new development, where he's finding deals right now in this low inventory market, and how he's buying real estate deals in the path of progress for maximum returns. If you have any questions, put them in the box down below. Make sure you get up on the top rope, elbow drop that like button so other people just like you can find this video. And as always, if you like money and you like real estate, hit that subscribe button because this is the show for you. We'll see you on the inside. Welcome to Founders Club, the show for real estate entrepreneurs. Here with Dan Haberkost. Welcome to Founders Club. Very excited to have you on today because I think it's really cool what you've done at such a young age, and to just kind of be able to be on your own, doing your own thing in your early 20s, and kind of like just, hitting the ground running, now doing development deals and bigger deals. So I just kind of want to break it all down and kind of hear a little bit more about your story.
Yeah, Oliver, thanks for having me. I'm glad we're finally able to connect. I know we had to reschedule a couple times, but I've been looking forward to speaking with you. But yeah, we can start at the beginning or cover it any way you'd like.
Yeah, let's just start there, because I know that like you even started as a job, like an employee in real estate as early as high school. So why don't you take us back to kind of how you got started?
Sure. So, I mean, that really goes back to where I grew up. I'm from Ohio, kind of lower middle class, very rural, conservative, and uh, the sentiment around money was fear, worry, anxiety, tension, conflict, right? That's what I remember from childhood. And watching my older siblings and cousins and everyone else in my family, everyone struggled with money. And so I had to start working at a pretty young age. So middle school, I was already buying and selling stuff on eBay. To what you were referring to, Oliver, by the time I was 16, my first real job, I was working at a tree farm, and I managed the farm for my boss. And then by that point, he'd also given me his rental portfolio while he spent time traveling. So I was managing his rentals and his farm while he was gone. And, in hindsight, he was a little bit of a slumlord. So that more taught me the type of rentals I didn't want to own. But yeah, at the time, it made me think I wanted nothing to do with real estate.
Yeah, I can see that makes sense. So what was your day to day in that position?
Yeah. So number one, the farm and the employees there. But then number two, if there were any problems, any issues, anything from the tenants, they called me while he was gone. And so I had to go handle it. And then, I remember ripping up a carpet covered in some sort of animal feces when I was 16 on a hot, humid Ohio day. And then fast forward a year later, I'm 17. I'm in that same house, and a new tenant had trashed it again. So yeah, that at the time made me not interested in real estate, to say the least.
So that's actually kind of a great experience for you, right? You really get to see like what you don't want, and then kind of reverse engineer. Okay, what would make a good tenant, and all of that. So you're 17, you're doing that, you're kind of cutting your teeth doing that. What happens next? Where do you go from there in the real estate?
Sure. So for the rest of high school, I did that job. And then going off to college, I ended up actually managing someone else's landscaping company, a portion of their company. And that was a great experience too, because I was thrown into managing a bunch of guys in their 30s. I was responsible for selling the work all the way down to the gross margin. So I was quite literally managing the whole residential side of the company while going to school full time. So I was out of real estate for a little while there. And a few years of doing that, I was a junior in college, and I was getting pretty frustrated at that age, 20 years old. And a lot of my friends are off having a lot of fun going to school on their parents' dime. And here I've been working nonstop since where I was pretty darn young. And I thought, okay, as much as this hasn't been ideal, how do I take these experiences and apply them as an adult to build some kind of business, right? Something to create some sort of freedom. So I started reading. I read about equities, read a bunch of books on the stock market, a bunch of books on different businesses. And like almost everyone else, it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was like a light bulb moment. I said, real estate it is. So this was coming up to my senior year of college, I actually bought a duplex at 21 while I was still in school. While I was running that landscaping company and finishing my degree. And that was my first foray personally into my own real estate investing.
Yeah, a rich dad, poor dad, huh? That's like
Yeah.
that's like the gateway to real estate. It's the gateway drug.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So then let's fast forward a little bit further. You kind of had the light bulb moment, the passion for real estate. You kind of discovered that. Why don't you tell me about how you took the plunge and kind of what maybe your first deal was?
Yeah, so it was a duplex in Parma, Ohio, which is one of the first suburbs of Cleveland for anyone who's familiar with that, because I grew up in the Medina Valley City area. And that was just a house hack. Bought it on market. This was, let's see, almost 4 years ago now, beginning of 2018, 3.5% down, very traditional purchase. Lived in the crappy unit, rented out the nicer unit while I was fixing up the unit that needed work. And shortly thereafter, though, I did end up moving to Colorado. I live in Colorado Springs now, and bought another house hack here and gave that duplex to a property manager. And it was shortly after that that I realized, contrary to what you hear and read, sure, you can get a couple properties with low and no money down, but in the long run, this is a cash intensive business. And whether it's you or someone you're partnered with, you need to have a lot of cash to scale a portfolio. And plus, things are going to go wrong. So it was around that time that I realized I needed some sort of active business. And that's where Front Range Land came from, which is a fairly long story. We can dive into that too, which is just land and building on some of that land.
Yeah, I love that. I definitely want to talk about the land stuff because I know you've been big on that. But I really want to kind of go back to that first deal because I think you went really fast there, and I want to kind of dissect it a little bit because you did what a lot of younger folks are doing these days to get into the real estate space, which is the house hacking. And I want to kind of break down how you did it, kind of what that looked like in your scenario, why you chose to do it that way. And then I want to talk about like how you found the deal, how you funded it, and all that kind of stuff. But tell me a little bit more about why you decided to go the house hacking route.
Yeah, well, I was at that time a student of bigger pockets. It is a great place to go if you're new and want to learn the basics. And so I was listening to all their podcasts, and that's what they talked about. And I saw that as most feasible because I had a full-time W-2 job. I was making 60 or 70 grand. So didn't have any debts other than a car note because I paid for school cash because I was working. So I said, okay, well, this is feasible. It's something I can go do right now. So that was kind of the why. It was just accessible. So I went and got pre-qualified with a traditional lender. Went and found a realtor and bought it off the MLS, toured a bunch of properties around Cleveland, kind of where I grew up, and bought this one. I did a lot of things wrong, but it's a lot better to learn on a $135,000 property where I put 3.5% down than on something more expensive. So I'm okay with having made some mistakes on that one early on. The realtor in hindsight did not have my best interest in mind. She didn't helped me with a number of things that the selling party didn't hold up in the contract. She kind of just left me out to dry. I made the classic mistake of with the existing tenant, the old, my security deposit's last month's rent. Accepted that. Definitely don't do that. And then the property manager I gave it to when I moved to Colorado also ended up being very poor. So made a lot of mistakes on that. But today I have a good property manager and the rents have gone up and cash flows a little bit every month and I don't really do anything. So
you still own that one?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Awesome. Yep. Congrats. So it sounds like you just took the plunge. I mean, you found a deal off the MLS. You didn't do any crazy, marketing or anything like that. You got a traditional loan on it. But you did the kind of bigger pockets way, which is the live in one, rent the other one. And then how much of the bill did that pay for you every month?
That was paying, it was $1,000 mortgage, and I think it was $775 rent. So I was paying most of the mortgage at the time. So
you're basically living for free.
Yeah. Yep. Now, in hindsight, for if there is anyone new listening, I would go to the local real estate club, especially. It's so much easier when you're young. If you're young, eager, and you're not arrogant, people want to help you. So go to the local real estate club and find a mentor, because I could have saved myself a lot of headache if I found someone who was years ahead of me. And shorten the learning curve and learn from their mistakes as opposed to making them myself. So it's a little hindsight 2020 there.
That's the truth. That's the number one shortcut to success.
Yep.
For sure. Okay. So you did that deal. You maybe did a couple more deals. You moved to Colorado Springs. I'm guessing that's a new market where you don't know a lot of people. Tell me what you did then.
Yeah, so that was the second house hack I purchased, and this has been just a phenomenal market. So this is going to blow your mind, but it's true. So in let's see, since it was November 2018, I closed on that, and I was renting it by the room while living it. It was a 4-3 split level, worked very well for that, and I've not had a single day, not a single day of vacancy in that house. Since then, it's still rented by the room. I don't live there anymore. So the market you're in matters a lot, and as I'm sure you and your listeners know, the Sun Belt's been growing like crazy. Arizona, Colorado, Texas, kind of this side of the country, along with the southeastern side of the country. So the demand for rooms is crazy. When I bought that thing, not only covered the mortgage, but it covered utilities and a couple $100 a month while house hacking it. So again, it's a great way to get started. And if it wasn't for that house hack, I wouldn't have eventually been able to leave my job and go and start my active business. So that was move number two. It's property I still own. It's probably the nicest property I have here in Colorado.
That's very cool. So that was another one that you bought with traditional
Mm-hmm.
financing, just straight off
Yep.
the MLS.
Yep.
You just found a nice property that you liked, that you actually wanted to live in,
Yep.
and then you decided to rent it out instead of a duplex. This was like a single family home, and you
Yeah.
rented it out by the bedroom.
Yes. So I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to buy a fourplex or a duplex, some multi-unit, and my lender messed up. I'd already made offers on a couple of fourplexes. Thankfully, none of them ended up going under contract because I forget the exact parameters or language or what changed, but basically I needed, even though it was owner occupied, a significant more amount down, and I didn't have the cash at that time, so I had to go single family. So I remember when she told me that, I was disappointed, but I thought, okay, well, I'll find a house that functions like a duplex. And that one's a split level. The basement had its own entrance around the back. And so it worked very well. And I'm glad I bought that property.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I think this is a great blueprint for anyone, starting out. Like, obviously it's less than ideal to have a bunch of roommates in your house,
Mhm.
but at certain times in your life that doesn't matter as much. And so why not take advantage of it?
Yeah, so that's such a good point because I'm debating with this right now. I'm so tired of house hacking, and I don't love it. I absolutely don't. But it's gotten me to a point where I'm 25 and I wake up and do whatever I want to do every day. And so delayed gratification is very, very important, guys. I didn't love it either. I didn't want people in my house, but what it's done for me is very, very powerful. So a few years of sacrifice can yield a lot of years of freedom. And at that same token, so at the real estate group I host here in town, I just had a couple speaking on house hacking that were in their 50s. They did it while they still had kids at home because they bought a house that, in every sense of the word, other than the literal one, was a duplex. And so they had a whole section off basement with own entrance, kitchen, bathroom, everything. And they never had to see their tenants, and they were Airbnb that for a house hack. So you can do it at any age and at any situation. But
Yeah.
it's so worth it if you're getting started. If you already have a very profitable business, maybe it doesn't make sense. But if you're trying to figure out how do I get out of my job and get a business going, it's a great way to start because it eliminates a lot of your expenses.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's nice when you become the landlord and then
Hmm.
are able to reduce your own living expenses and own a property at the same time. So
Yeah.
very cool. Okay, so then let's talk about your next transition. You kind
Mhm.
of got into land, right, and
Yep.
started the land business. So talk to me a little bit about that. Why did you go that direction? And then let's talk
Mhm.
about what you're doing.
Yep. So that real estate group I just mentioned before I hosted it, when I first moved here, I went and I met a guy who'd been in real estate and a lot of land and development all over the West Coast for the last 40 some years. He was from Colorado, but a lot in California and Arizona and so on. And he wanted help in his business. In exchange, he said, "Well, I can show you some of what I've done." And so he lives about an hour south of me. And I went and met with him one day a week, get up bright and early, usually on Saturday or Sunday, worked with him, helped him organize his paperwork. I was basically his little assistant for it took about a year before I was doing anything, but I learned how to make millions of dollars from him, and it cost me nothing other than my time. And maybe a little bit of ego. And so, anyways, that was my first foray into that. I just learned what he was doing, and it was overwhelming at first because he showed me 40 years of, he's talking about buying notes and then building houses and building apartments. And so it was a bit much at first, but oh man, over time that has been invaluable. And now he's just a good friend. I'm actually going to meet him after we're done. A good friend and an investor, and just a someone I can go to if I have questions on really anything.
So that's very, very cool. So let me unpack that a little bit. You wanted to get into the land investing thing, went through, I'm guessing it's like a local real estate investing association, something like that.
Yeah, to be clear, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just knew I needed some sort of active business that scaled my income, and that was what he knew best and taught me. So yeah, but
Okay.
yes, let the local
So,
reality.
and then it sounds like this guy kind of became a mentor after a
Mhm,
while, and kind of probably took an interest in your success and
mhm.
started teaching you things. And you're doing this the entire time for free, just kind of as
Yeah.
a intern.
Yeah, just went down, helped him, and he'd drive around, show me his projects, and show me the thinking behind it. And it took me a while to get it too, because when you're still, because I was at the time, we're talking early 2019, when you're in that very scarcity mindset where you just want to get out of the situation and you're worried about, how do I quit my job and still be able to pay the bills? It's hard sometimes for you to digest a lot of what he says. I've told him, especially in the last year here, like I finally get it, because he'd always tell me, you're not looking at the big picture. You're not looking at the big picture. And so there's definitely been a mindset shift and an ability to comprehend what he's telling me at a higher level. But yeah, just go down there. He'd show me his project. I'd help him, and so on and so forth.
And then this guy happened to just be in the land
Hmm.
business. I'm
Yep.
guessing like flipping raw land, or is he developing, or a little bit of both?
Yeah. So everything, selling it for notes, selling it for cash, building houses, apartments, commercial. But he has done pretty much everything within the real estate world over the last 40 years.
Wow. Yeah, so
Hmm.
that's a great guy to learn from. That's very cool. And
Yeah.
you made the sacrifice up front, which is something we talk about all the time, which
Hmm.
is just, adding value before you ask for anything in return. And in this case, you were probably putting in a lot of time, not making
Hmm.
any money,
Yep.
probably still trying to have to figure out how to make money on the side.
Hmm.
Um, and then, but like you said, you paid your dues, and then tell me about what happened. How did that turn into, either a paid relationship or
Hmm.
you starting to do your own deals?
Yeah, well, it started with the houses. So we started working together on some of the houses, and he was the investor, and I'd take a small little portion of the profit, and learned how to build houses from him, and then sold a couple pieces of land with him as the investor, and that's eventually there was a level of trust and just a genuine friendship that developed. So we just started doing a couple projects and deals together, and that was really how it started. And I think that's really, really key, guys. If you're looking for some sort of a mentor and you're not paying, then it needs to be a matter of building a genuine relationship over time. It can't be transactional. It can't be me, me, me. It's got to be genuine, unless you want to pay. You can pay for these sorts of things, but most people don't want to do that. So,
That's true. And
mhm.
you're going to pay one way or the other. You're going to either
Yeah.
pay with your money, or you're going to pay with
Yep.
your time.
Yep. Exactly.
Right. So it's just pick which route you want to go.
Hmm. Agreed.
So, okay. So talk to me about how that then turned into you starting to do deals on your own. It sounds like you were kind of maybe the junior,
Yeah.
kind of helping him out. And
Yep.
then maybe you popped up and started bringing deals to the table, and he would finance them and
Yep.
kind of like mentor you. And then I'm
Hmm.
guessing now you're probably doing deals on your.
Exactly. Yeah, that's spot on. So, for a while there, I was working on just learning how to make some money, and I ended up quitting my W-2 job at the end of 2019. I think it was September 2019. And so at that point, yeah, I started up my own marketing as far as mailers and that sort of thing to get off market pieces of land. We built on a few of them because the realtors that had clients, and did that via pre-sale, which was pretty cool until lumber skyrocketed. We can talk about that if you want. And then also just flip some of them where he put up the cash, and then eventually I started to build up my own cash. And so some of them I do with my own. I still have private lenders because I think that that's just useful. I have my own lines of credit and that sort of thing too. But yeah, at this point, I've got a team that does everything for me just about, and I handle the marketing and building some houses, buying and selling land, most for cash, but some on notes. And it's just become a great, very scalable, active business today.
That's very cool. So what now? What are you focusing on now?
Yeah, so I have finally gotten this business offloaded almost 100%, where I'm only handling the high level stuff as far as making the decisions on the marketing. So I'm looking to scale that. I want to hit a certain income goal this year from the land and development business. So a certain amount of houses built and a certain amount of lots bought and sold to hit that. And then separately from that, I really need to scale my investing at the same level that I've scaled my income, because I figured that out, but then I have all this cash sitting around. I need to scale the investing. So working hard to get a couple buy and holds under contract on the residential side here. This in quarter 1, I have a ton of marketing going out this month. I have a friend who has built robots. He's an engineer that handwrite mailers. It looks 100% real. So we'll see how that goes, but I got to imagine you're going to get almost 100% open rate if you're getting a handwritten letter. So looking to expand the rental portfolio, and really in the long term, I don't want to accrue hundreds of residential units personally. There's nothing wrong with that. Plenty of people have done very well that way. But in the long run, I want, let me give you an example. The guy I keep telling you about, he owns a Walgreens anchored strip center in a great area in Vegas. And
Nice
numbers on that are just ridiculous. He's netting a ridiculous amount. It's completely passive. That's where I'm looking to go here in the long term. So I want to build a little bit more of a base from the residential side, but at the same time, I'm making some moves to get into that space so that I can start marketing for a deal in the commercial world, and specifically a mix of commercial, retail, and industrial. That's really interesting to me. Where you can get triple net long-term leases is where I want to go in the long run. So those are the big focuses. And then a little more personal, but looking to buy a house that I actually like this year, where first and foremost it's a home I want to live in, and then has a small sectional house hack, as opposed to all the houses I've bought and occupied were first and foremost numbers based. And I haven't actually bought a house I like yet. So I'd like to do that.
Yeah. Or maybe a house with just a unit on the back or something, you know?
Exactly. That's the kind of, exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So it sounds like you kind of have a lot going on right now. What percentage of your business is just doing the land stuff versus building ground up developments?
That's a great question. You want me? I mean, I can just go over the numbers of what I'm trying to hit. I'm trying to do. I want to net $1 million from Front Range Land this year, and so I'm looking to hit 300,000 from the building of houses, and then 700 from the flipping of land. If it doesn't work out exactly that way, that's fine. Right. And especially, gosh, there's such a spread on single family houses in my market right now. It is insane. So on a 240 basis, you have on a 240 basis, then you factor in the realtor fees, which obviously you don't pay until it closes, so it's not part of the basis. 385 sales price, you can net about 120 on just a simple ranch, 1,500 square foot, 3-bed, 2-bath house. And so my mind is shifting a little bit, where I think I'm going to try and get a couple more of those going and focus a little more heavily on that. But I always think about, I forget which podcast host this was, but one of the guys that was podcast I was on referenced, what's the return on sleep? And I really like keeping that front of mind. I don't want all these construction loans in my name. So what I'm working on doing is getting more houses going, but just giving away portions of them and having investors fund them so that only some are in my name. And so working on that right now too, because again, there's just so much margin there. If the market does fall, well, number one, I have an entry-level product that is applicable to retiring baby boomers and first-time home buyer millennials, so the two biggest demographics in the country. And then with that much of a spread, you could drop it $100,000 just to get rid of it if you had to. And so I feel very confident in building a bunch of those right now for those reasons, as long as it's structured right. So yeah, I think that might change, where I push her a little more on the house building side and a little less on the land flipping.
Cool. Very cool. I got a question here from Karen Margrave. What market are you in? He's in Colorado Springs. But are you doing deals everywhere, or do you mainly stick in that market?
So the buy and holds are here in Colorado Springs. Other than that duplex I still have in Ohio. And then the land is all south of me right now. Colorado's very simple because you have mountains in the way. So all the main markets are right down the Front Range off of I-25, the main highway, and the path of progress has just been straight down the Front Range. So the markets I'm building in and buying and selling land are both south of me. Pueblo West, Colorado City, Pueblo, that area.
Okay, cool. Yep. And that's another good point that you just brought up there is when you're playing the development game and the buy and hold game, really it's be in the path of progress, be in an area that, be in front of the growth.
Yep.
And Do you have any tips on doing that in terms of, I mean, obviously, like you said, in Colorado, it's a lot easier because they can't
Yeah.
really go in very many directions because of the mountains.
Yep.
But what tips do you have for finding a property in the path of progress?
I'm so glad you asked this question because this is something I think about all the time. Because how do I duplicate that or find these opportunities again? So when I went down to meet the guy, Rich is his name that I keep telling you about. Uh, he shows me this market. I'd never been down there before, right? I'm living in Colorado Springs. I know people in Denver, but I'd never gone south. And an infill lot here in the Springs is 100K plus if it's in at all a decent area. And he's showing me there's 20,000 lots down there, and you could buy them between 5 and 10 on market. This was in late 2018, 2019, 5 to 10 on market. He was getting them at like 2 to 3 off market, all utilities in place. I mean, all
Wow.
the entitlements done, shovel ready. I mean, that's crazy. Now, this market had the word Pueblo attached to it, and Pueblo, the city, was a lot like Cleveland or Toledo, a lot of cities back east that were thriving 100 years ago, but then kind of failed as industry started to fail and jobs went elsewhere. So it had a bad reputation because Pueblo West had the name Pueblo attached to it. But Pueblo West was a development done in the 70s, completely separate from Pueblo, just had the name by the same guy who did Lake Havasu in Arizona, for anyone who's familiar with that. And so here you have this failed subdivision, commutable to Colorado Springs, commutable to Fort Carson, the huge military base, and a lot of the other companies that people work on the south end. And land is dirt cheap. And so I always think, I don't know if you've read Howard Marks at all. I like more of the, as far as investing, the strategy of finding undervalued deals as opposed to, okay, a great asset bought at full market price isn't really interesting, but an okay asset bought at a dirt cheap price is very interesting. And so that's kind of how I look at the land there. I don't really want to live there, but it's a great middle class market. Golf course, reservoir, 50 and
Yeah.
sunny in the winter, not so bad. And so a lot of people do want to live there. So in other states, I would say, okay, where's the path of progress? So I have a friend in Texas, and he was asking me this, and I said, I pulled up the map, and I see Austin and Dallas, and I think, well, what's going on along those highways between there, right? So how are cities growing? Where is the connector between the major cities in your state? Where are the new big companies going? If there's someone moving there, are there big bases, military bases? It varies from place to place, but paying attention to that, and then also just paying attention to what has been ignored but still has value for your average. Again, if we're talking real estate and homes, for your average middle class person, because right now, again, retiring baby boomers and millennials are our two biggest demographics. So where are they going? And sometimes it's not necessarily where they want to go, but it's what they can afford right now.
Yeah.
So I hope that answers the question a little bit. It went a little around
No, that
answer,
was a
but
great answer. And I
yeah.
think to your point, if you're in your own market and it's
Mhm.
100K a lot, and you can go a little bit further down the road and get properties for 5 to 10K a lot,
Yeah.
it's a big difference in the opportunity cost of just getting started, right?
Yes.
So
Yep.
and then the idea there is as the growth comes towards that outskirts area, that the values will go up much faster than in the market that you're currently in. So you're buying at a cheaper price and you have the opportunity to down the road
Mhm.
sell for a higher price.
Yep. And to be clear, the fundamentals were there, and I don't have buy and holds down there. I'm working on it, but the fundamentals were there even when it was cheaper and there was less people down there. You could still very profitably build a house, and just keeping, especially right now when things are changing so rapidly and there's such a lack of housing, kind of keeping your finger on the market. So even further down the Front Range, past that market, is another little city. I went down there for the first time 2018, 2019, did a few land deals, and dirt cheap. I'm talking infill lots at $1,000. I gotten some even cheaper, and it was right at the end of 2020. I got a lot on the golf course down there for $1,000, and at that point, I'd just been flipping them. I could sell that for 8 to 10 on a note. Well, I drive down there because I hadn't been down there in a while, and all of a sudden, this hadn't been the case 6 months earlier. There's houses popping up everywhere. People are building. So I call some of the builders. I chat with them, and they're all pre-sold, every one of them. They're selling at the
Wow.
same price per square foot as up north. And you have $1,000 lot cost and cheaper tap fee. It was crazy. So that house, build a house on that closes this month to sell, build another one down there. 2 years ago might not have made sense. I was just flipping land. Now it makes sense to build houses down there. I wouldn't do it at scale, but a few onesie twosies where there's a huge spread, absolutely. So just paying attention to what's going on, so anyways, yeah.
No, that's good stuff. Is there anything else when you're kind of evaluating path of progress, in terms of jobs in the market, any other factors, income levels, demographic data, anything else that you're looking at, or is it strictly just numbers?
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't nailed down anything in that regard, and perhaps I should. But when you start to see Dollar General pop up, if it's a really rural area, or a Starbucks, and those big corporations do have their numbers down to a science, which is why they're so successful. That tends to be a very, very good sign. So,
Yep.
like in the first market, the Pueblo West market, we just got a Dollar General down there, and now there's an Ace Hardware growing, and so it's getting to that point where it would seem that the headcount of just residential doors justifies commercial now. And actually, Rich has been telling me that. He's like, Dan, you should go do some commercial developments. And I haven't done that yet because I have a lot on my plate. But yeah, there's a lot of commercial building, and some of those bigger franchises are coming down there now too.
Definitely. No, that's very exciting. And that's how you want to look at it. You want to be in that path of progress. I think that's super important. And
It is.
it sounds like you've got your finger on the pulse on that.
Yeah, and again, Oliver, I'm not a genius. I just went and found someone who knew more than me and learned from them. And I'm trying to do that with everything I'm doing. Same thing going into the commercial world. I wish I had done that with my first residential rentals. It would have shortened the learning curve. It would have saved me some money and a lot of headaches. So, I'm telling you guys, for any listeners that are new, people who are successful love to help new people if they're eager, if they're genuine, they're not arrogant, and they're willing to go execute what you say. So
Yeah.
for example, there was like a 22-year-old girl that came up to me from the real estate group here in town that wanted help. She's already bought a couple of rentals, and she's working at a title company and done all this stuff. I love to help people like that, right? And older investors is the same case too. Even if you're not young, if you're eager and you'll do what they say and you listen, they like to help.
Yeah, I think having the right attitude in a situation like that is probably the most important thing. It's not
Yep.
me. It's,
Yes.
let's collaborate. How can I help? How can I learn? That kind of a thing. And
Absolutely.
asking good questions.
Yep. That's true.
Got another couple questions here from Karen Margrave. Let's see here. Are you splitting the lots and having to put in all the infrastructure, utilities, curb, gutter, sidewalk? No, it sounds like all the lots you were buying have all that already.
Yeah.
And then what are the costs of construction per square foot?
Okay, let me hit on that first point, and then I'll hit on the cost per square foot. So everything I'm doing right now has been infill lots, and all I mean by that is a developer already came in, took 1,000 or however many acres it was originally, and did all of that preliminary work. And that is why it's so significant that these lots were so cheap, because there is far more than what I've been buying them at already put into them to bring all the utilities, right, to annex it into the city, to do all the subdividing. Now, I've looked at a few large subdivision projects. Actually, I almost had one under contract, but I just could not make a agreement with the city, or excuse me, with the seller on any of them yet. So I do understand the process and what goes through it. I've watched some of my friends do it, but I have not done it yet. So if you can find, and again, I'll hit on the square foot, but back to looking for the path of progress. If you can find a failed subdivision, all these markets, there's one in Nevada I'm just starting in. A friend of mine has had a lot of success, plus the two here in Colorado. All these markets were failed subdivisions from years ago. So what does that mean? That means there's a bunch of people that bought these lots decades ago, 30, 40, 50, sometimes 60 years ago, and nothing ever happened. So now it's just a sunk cost in their mind, or their kids inherited it, or they need to be probated. So there's a ton of opportunity because of that too, because most of the owners no longer want the land. So if you can find failed subdivisions that are now starting to grow or are near the path of progress, definitely look into that. And then cost per square foot. Oh, gosh, I always just think of my all-in cost, which includes the tap fees, which aren't part of that, obviously. I want to say it's in the 120s approximately. Lumber's come down quite a bit. And I just ordered trusses for one of these projects, and those have come down. So yeah, but everything else has also gone up. So I want to say we are still in the 120s plus land and tap fees, soft costs, that sort of thing.
Very cool. So, right now, obviously, and we kind of touched on it a little bit, but right now, inventory is really tight. It's harder to get deals. There's less stuff on the market. So what are you doing right now to get deals and to find deals?
Yeah, great question. So I'll hit on the land business and then the investing. In the land business, I have mailers going out every week like clockwork. Never miss your marketing, especially once you have your business going and you have the finances for it. And so at this point, because I know my market, I have a huge cash buyers list. I have resources there. I have mailed the same people 8 times in the last 12 months, and I continue to get deals. And so I'm mailing everyone. Don't assume you can only get deals from the low-hanging fruit, the out-of-state owners. I had a guy, one of the deals we had a couple months ago, he lived next to the parcel. He's lived in Pueblo for years. He knows exactly what it's worth. He didn't want to deal with realtors. He had a really profitable, I forget what type of business, and just didn't want to deal with it. So he sold it to us at 40 cents on the dollar because he didn't have to do anything. So don't assume that you can't get deals from the people there locally. Of course, start with the low-hanging fruit. And then I added cold calling in at the end of last year. I've got a couple people cold calling, and that has been really useful. I don't think a lot of people are doing that land. I think all the land courses are teaching just mailers because I haven't done quite enough to really have an accurate quantified, it's X amount of calls per deal, but it's pretty darn low because she's not even on a dialer. She's just dialing herself, and she's getting us a deal or two every month that way. Just closed another one. And then number 3, and this tax lien lists, those are gold. Go find the tax lien list. And then the county held list is the list of lots where there are liens to be bought, but nobody bought them. In the world of land, I highly recommend going after those properties too. And then I actually have a friend from that real estate group who's a software engineer, and he built me a little, I guess just program is the word I'm looking for, that's been scrubbing the public records. So in my county, they released the list of new properties with tax liens to be bought every year, but it takes 3 years to take over the list. So they don't have any public lists with properties that have 2 or 3 years of tax liens on them because those are already purchased. So I have a software set up for me now that scrubs the public data and gets me those lists. So cold calling those as well. So again, I wouldn't go that aggressive as far as mailing the same people 8 times in a year in a market until you know the model works there, whether it's for houses or land or whatever. But it does. And just kind of to illustrate that point, we got a deal last year where they had gotten 6 of my letters. They owned 9 or 10 parcels free and clear, and they owned a house in the middle of Denver that was probably worth $1 million. So these people had plenty of money, but they needed some liquidity. They called, they go, "Oh, hey, great timing." It was like something out of like a training course. It was unbelievable. They called my acquisition. Yeah, great timing. We need to sell one of these off. Just need the cash. I go, "Oh, can we buy the others?" And no, we're only going to sell one at a discount. Bought it at 40 cents. I think we bought it at 14, sold it like 32. Again, consistency with the marketing and not assuming that locals are not assuming that people who know the value won't sell at a discount. They might, you don't know their situation. Then I think that, okay. And then for the active rentals, yes, right now I have quite a bit of marketing going out this month, all handwritten, or at least appearing handwritten. So we'll see what that yields. And then I'm going to have one of my acquisitions managers cold call through those here later as a follow-up.
Oh, cool. And how many people are on the team right now?
So I have 2 acquisitions managers, and then I've been able to offload a lot of the responsibility to people that don't actually work for me, but like my general contractors take the projects and run with them. Realtors sell a lot of the land for me. Great title agents are a huge resource too. So yeah, I just have the 2 acquisitions managers, but the one functions as a lot more than that because she's eager to learn. I gave her a personality test, and it scares me a little bit because she's a lot like me. So I'm a little concerned about what she's going to want to do after, a year. So I'm going to try and really take care of her. But anyways, yeah, so the 2 acquisition managers, but the one handles a lot more than that. And then just different contractors and realtors and that sort of thing.
And those 2 front-end acquisition managers, those are the ones cold calling and answering the leads as they come in?
Yep. And the one in particular, she does a lot of the dispo too and the transaction coordination.
And then what is the offer, or what is the first call like when they get someone that raises their hand on like a piece of land?
So our letters have the price right in them. So I do a mix of postcards and envelopes. And the reason I say that is because I couldn't believe it. The first time I sent out postcards, I got so many people that reached out because they'd never opened the letters. So, guys, really important there. Some people, you could send me any sort of mailer and I'll never see it. I'll never open it. But if you texted me, I'm always going to see it. So reaching people where they're at is really important. And that's why cold calling plus a variety of mailers works really well. But the mailers have a price right on it. So it's really simple. It's, hey, Oliver, we see you own such and such. We're a local investor developer. If you have any interest in selling, call, text, we'll pay this, cover all closing, and make it very easy for you. And so if they call, they're either interested in selling at that price or something near it, and they want to negotiate a bit. And it really cuts down on those useless conversations of people who just want a full market value. We don't really get those. And then I have them cold call in the same way. Oh, hey, Oliver, we're a developer in town, see you own such and such. Do you have any interest in selling? We've been buying at X price. That's it. It's a really straight to the point, really easy. I really don't want to deal with tire kickers. So that's how I have them do it.
Yeah. No, I mean, putting the price up front, that gets rid of the tire kickers immediately. Because anybody that reaches out is obviously going to be interested for real.
Yep.
Couple questions off that. One, what is that a software that's writing all those for you? And then what are you just going off a percentage of market value, like 50 cents on the dollar or something, or what? How are you doing that?
Yeah, great question. So if he's asking about the handwritten letters, it's my buddy's company. Anyways, Robot Inc. Marketing. If anyone looks that up, he can send those for you. He has that all built out.
Cool.
As far as the mail house, I just have a mail house, and then guys, these are infill lots. So the beauty of that is you have 20,000 lots that are exactly the same. So pricing is very, very, very easy. So I think I started at like 25 cents on the dollar, and I've slowly increased that offer. And I'm at about 40. Right now. I'm not going above that as I've sent out more and more mail.
That's great.
Yep.
So yeah, so you just hit all. So you're basically, it's not necessarily you're tailoring every mailer with a price. You're more just, this is my price for any piece of land in this area that meets these criterias. You send it to all of them. Whoever responds, they already have an idea of the price. You handle all the closing costs, make it easy, and they can just walk away.
Yep, exactly. You just send a notary to their house from the title company, and that's that. And there are people doing this model. I think there's like Price and a number of different systems that use aggregated statistics to assign an offer to every lot on your list, even if they're very different. I've never gone that route. The infill stuff, just being out west, especially, right, because this side of the country isn't built out the way back east is, that works very, very well. And it just makes it simple, but it can be done either way. And keep in mind, guys, you could have an offer that's way off and still get a deal. So, for example, my mail house messed up, and down in that really cheap market I was telling you I'm building in now, I meant to send offer letters at $1,500. Well, they added a zero. They sent them at 15,000. And anyways, so that was bad. I apologize to my acquisitions managers for all the calls, but she still pulled a deal out of it. She just, hey, gosh, I apologize. It's just a typo. It was supposed to be $1,500. We still got a deal on it. We're building on it. So you can mess up the offer, and obviously it makes it harder and still get a deal. So if someone's out there who was trying to pursue this, they're new and they're hesitating because they're unsure in pricing, guys, it doesn't matter. You're going to mess up the first mailing or two. My very, very first ones when I was doing it, I absolutely messed up. I offered way too much because I didn't realize there was a bunch of parcels without utilities, and I still figured it out. I iterated. Iterations are what matter, because then you learn every time. So get started.
I love it. Yeah, that's great advice. Cool. So why don't we talk about this is a question I like to ask all the guests, and that's just kind of like, what are the tools and softwares that you're using right now that just make your life easier, your business better, kind of your favorite softwares and apps?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, PropStream, probably everyone knows where it is. That's where I pull most of my lists, other than the county ones or the ones my buddy are getting for me. So PropStream has been great for $100 a month. And then what's it called?
For the people that don't know, tell them what you're using that for.
Yeah, so PropStream just aggregates public data. So I can go to my market, pull up the map, draw a circle around the area I want to target, and then specify I want out-of-state owners that have owned for 10 plus years where it's not on the MLS, and whatever. You can get very, very granular. So PropStream has been great for that. Very simple. Next one would be Pipedrive. Now I had to pay a little bit of money to get it built out for my business, but I am 100% visual. If you describe something to me, I don't see it in my head at all, at all. So Pipedrive is a CRM. So what is that? Customer retention manager, or client relation manager. I always forget the acronym, but it's a database for all your clients or deals or leads. And so visually, I have different pipelines. So there's the acquisitions pipelines with all the properties we're working on buying, and what stage, is it just lead in? Is it negotiation? Is it under contract? And then within that, you click on the deal, you see the owner's name and contact info. I had them build out a section where, is the notary scheduled? Is there additional paperwork? Yes or no? All of that's in there. And so that's very helpful because I also have it for dispositions or selling of the land. I have it for the houses I'm building, what stage they're in. And then I also have just a database, all the realtors, all the potential buyers, the sellers, so on and so forth, contractors. It's my database of contacts. So when my acquisitions manager is handling dispo, she wants to send out all the lots we have. She pulls the list from there and emails all of them. So yeah, that's been a huge, huge windfall, having that set up and customized for our business specifically. It makes it very easy to stay organized, and then you don't lose info of buyers or sellers, because a lot of times you'll get a buyer lead and maybe they don't buy that one, and then they buy down the road. Or again, this is just a general piece of advice, but so many of the lots that we've bought, we're closing on 2 next week. She's probably followed up 30 plus times. I'm not exaggerating at all. Now, you don't do that. We don't ever do that unless they show interest. If they tell you, hey, I want to sell, and then they just disappear, that's when I say, hey, keep following up until they either sell us the parcel or they tell you to F off. That's I literally have that in the SOP for her. So anyways, not to get off track, but that's very important, guys. So many of these deals we've gotten after a dozen follow-ups. So Pipedrive, PropStream, and then, at first I was doing a lot more notes, so GeekPay was useful. But if you're going to have a large portfolio of notes, GeekPay. But I think I only have 10 or 11, so my CPA just deals with that. And because that does get complicated.
Very cool. No, that's great. I'm gonna have to check those out. And Pipedrive, right?
Yep.
Cool. It's like a visual pipeline of all your deals, leads, etc.
Cool. Yeah, that's been great.
I like the sound of that. Just check that one out for sure. All right, cool. So this is kind of the question I like to wrap with everyone. I have 2 young boys at home, and I'm always trying to teach them, different lessons and get advice from different mentors and different people that I talk to. But what would you say to the kids out there on how to be successful in life?
Ooh, that's a great question. Nobody's asked me that. That one's making me think. Man, there's a couple thoughts that immediately come to mind. Being humble in everything you do, because everything involves other people. And when you're likable, I swear being likable is one of the most profitable qualities you can possibly have. And being humble plays into that quite a bit. And along with that, just not setting any expectations on other people, being self-reliant is very, very important as well. And kind of by that same token, what's the word? I'm trying to think how to summarize what I'm thinking. Just expecting that you're going to have to work for anything that you want to accomplish, and nothing is, having no sense of entitlement is really important, I think. And then along with that, just being relentless in whatever you're trying to pursue. If we're talking about, high level recommendations and personality characteristics, that's, I think, a couple pieces of advice that make a big difference. Nothing's owed to you. Nothing's going to be just given to you. You can complain and whine about it, and you'll get a lot of people who agree with you. But at the end of the day, you're still just going to be complaining and whining together. You might be disadvantaged in one way or another, but it really doesn't matter, because that's just life. That is how it works in the animal kingdom. So anyways,
Yeah, that's the truth right there. And stay humble. I love that.
Yeah, that's really important. Really. And it's easy too, as you start to experience some level of success, you start to think you're special, and you're definitely not. I'm not. And so keeping yourself around people who are way ahead of you is also very, very useful. And I'm actively working on doing that. So that helps as well. Just being around people who are where you want to be.
Amen. Let's wrap it right there. That's perfect. Couldn't agree more. Always good to expand your circle and just always try to be, you know, connecting with people, like you said, that are doing more and doing big things and doing the things that you want to be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. This was fun, Oliver.
So where can they learn more about you? I know you're doing a consulting course here coming up. So why don't we talk about that a little bit and where people can connect with you to learn more?
Yeah. Have you interviewed Brent Bowers by chance?
I have.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So Brent's a good friend. We're doing a bunch of projects together.
Cool.
And in his land business, he had a lot of people that wanted to learn how to build on the land. And that's my area of expertise. So he and I are putting together I get very frustrated with the whoops, bump my mic, with the mindset stuff when it's taken too far, or, you know, just write your goals down and look at them and everything. No, the only thing that happens is what you make happen. So this course is going to be A to Z turnkey model for buying land at a discount and building on it profitably. That's it. It's not going to be for people who need motivation. It's for people who have motivation and need a model. If you need your hand held, please do not reach out or buy it. But yeah, we're going to be releasing that here in 8 or 9 weeks. Turnkey model on how to buy land at a discount and build houses on it. And then to find me, just go to Dan Haberkost at Facebook or on Instagram. I'm fairly active on there. So either of those, lots of pictures of the mountains and then just pictures of deals I'm doing.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, appreciate your time, guys. If you have any more questions, put them in the box down below. And as always, if you like money and you like real estate, hit that subscribe button because this is the show for you. And we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, Oliver.
Thanks a lot.